Chicago with the lead. Court. Batista with the catch. Oh! LeBron James with no regard for human life. Hand down, man down.
Yeah, I can see how disrespectful he's being right there.
No, I went to Temecula and brought you some dirt.
Yeah, that's a technical.
Mama, there goes that man.
Welcome back to The Bounce. I have a special guest with me this week. Nate, how are you, my friend?
Oh, you're not too bad. Looking forward to the weekend, obviously, here.
Oh yeah, you're already in weekend mode. Obviously, we got a little different face tonight. Kev is out of touch today. He's got some stuff going on, so me and Nate are going to hold down the fort. Nate's got one heck of a beer there he's drinking. It's the old Elvis banana hammock. It's fantastic. So it's great. Looks like Kev is live with us. He is here. He's watching. I think he's actually back in Indiana tonight. He's in my neck of the woods, so he's dealing with some stuff back here. And we've already got our first comment that's going to lead us right into this. Lee brings it up. 4.6 billion extensions, free agents, and rookie signings this year. That's crazy. The money's real in the NBA, Nate. There's no joke in the NBA.
You're not wrong. I mean, obviously I'm not super huge into the NBA, but there were some crazy deals, in my opinion, here recently. I mean, let's talk about the big one on the board there with Jaylen Brown.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm not super NBA knowledgeable here. I mean, I could hold a conversation, but
yeah.
I mean, I know he's a high volume scorer, but $300 million,
Mm-hmm.
$300 million.
Yeah. So
if anybody on the Celtics deserves $300 million, I feel like it should have gone to Jason Tatum.
So Tatum's eligible next summer. So Tatum can't sign his Supermax yet because he was a year behind Jaylen Brown. So Jaylen Brown's 1 year earlier, and Jaylen Brown, he qualified for the Supermax because he was third team All-NBA last year. So you have to hit that benchmark. There's very specific ones you have to hit, and he hit it. Some details on this one, just to really give you some numbers here, Nate. It's projected a $304 million contract over the next 5 seasons. It kicks in next year, not this year. It's projected because if the salary cap raises 10% each year, it goes with it. So the Supermax is a percentage of what the salary cap is. It's the richest contract in NBA history. Supermax is 35% of the salary cap. I did write that down. And it's listen to these numbers, man. 24-25, it's $52.4 million. 25-26, 56.6. Next year, 60.8. Next year, 64.9. And if the cap keeps increases like they think it will, which I don't see any reason why it wouldn't, in 28-29, Jaylen Brown's going to make $69.1 million.
Too bad it couldn't be 69.420
right?
dollars.
It is. It's unbelievable. He's the highest paid player in NBA history. Think about that. Of all the players in the league right now, he's the highest paid one ever. It's wild. Lee's right. Jason Tatum's gonna get his next year. We're gonna go into that. I've got some numbers on how this is all gonna work.
Yeah, I'm curious. How's that gonna work for the? You say you got some numbers. How's that gonna work for the Celtics? I mean, it seems like with the way things are going, they're going to devote $120 million of cap space to 2 players.
Not only that, they've also got Kristaps Porzingis on the team. And shout out Kev, yes, the Oilers shirt that'll get talked about.
Real quick before you continue, I got to ask: with my comments earlier in the week, did you wear that shirt on purpose?
I actually was looking. No, I didn't. So if you guys aren't in the Discord, Nate was calling me out because he doesn't think the Titans should have the logos. I agree to disagree. I did not. I wore it before I realized you were going to be on. I was like, I'm going to wear that, and I'm absolutely going to go on a rant at some point. So I just grabbed it. So it was not just because of you, but now that you say it, it's kind of funny. So next year, so the cap this year is 136 million. You can go up to like 170. You can go over the cap. It's not unlimited like baseball. Like,
Right.
You're a huge baseball guy. I'm not, so I think it's my best reference. But once you get up to like 170-ish, 180, you start getting severely penalized. They start repeat tax offenders. They start pulling draft picks. They do a lot of stuff. That's why what Phoenix is doing with all 4 of those max guys isn't supposed to happen. They just don't give a crap. So it's 136 million. If it goes up by 10, it'll be roughly 150 next year. So his Supermax kicks in. He'll make 52 next year. Jason Tatum will make 30-ish. His Supermax would kick in 2 years. They also have Kristaps Porzingis on the team, who's making 30 mil next year. So next year alone, they'd have 115 of their roughly 150 million tied up into their big 3.
Man, and like, that's a good point, what Lee said there. But like, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like Porzingis hasn't done much compared to where he was drafted at. Now, again, I'm saying this as somebody who's more casual observer, kind of keeps on top of box scores, standings, sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. I think we've got a special guest here, bringing one more in. The best hair on Bite Size, our boy.
There we go.
Johnny Football. How are you, Johnny?
What's up, fellas? Pretty good. How are we doing? What'd I miss?
Talking Jaylen Brown right now. We're down a Kristaps rabbit hole. Nate's drinking an Elvis banana hammock, so
Sweet.
do with that comment what you will.
I'm on board with all of that so far.
All right. So Nate, you're not wrong, and Kev brings it up here. KP was drafted extremely high, had a lot of hype, and then had a lot of injuries that really brought him down. He gets traded to Dallas. He's supposed to be Luka's wingman. Great comment, Kev. Supposed to be Luka's wingman, gets hurt, doesn't play, gets traded away to the Wizards, kind of a throwaway. He sneakily had his best season this last year, possibly in his whole career. And it was lost because he was playing on a Wizards team that was absolute hot garbage, just absolute crap. It was a lot better in the post. He's going to be their best defender now with Marcus Smart getting traded. So it's really sneaky. It was a sneaky trade, and he makes a lot of money. $30 billion ain't no joke.
No, it's no joke. And Jaylen Brown's out here getting, Justin Herbert money. But I don't know, it's a goofy, and I actually wanted to see what you thought about this, James, and everybody in the chat. This is kind of an example of it, but I think it was on JJ Redick's show. They said that free agency is kind of dead because if a player is like any good, the way the Supermax and the Max works and the qualifications for it, like if you don't necessarily have to be this like top 5, top 10 player to qualify for the Supermax. And if that team wants to retain you, if you're eligible for it, you're basically negotiating for the Supermax. So instead of just hitting the open market, when a guy who's, of maybe Jaylen Brown's caliber, let's say, for example, or a Bradley Beal is another good example of it, like instead of just hitting the open market, unrestricted free agency, and going to the teams with cap space, which generally aren't the good ones recently, you just basically sign the Supermax with your team and then just ask out later if you want to jump teams, or it's a sign and trade, but like it's all about getting that money from the only team that can give it to you.
Yep.
So like all the stipulations around how money moves around are really weird. And it made me think about like, dude, 2010, 2011 free agency were some of the best times of my life. Like just waiting for that news to drop. Because there were so many stars that just hit the open market and there were viable teams with cap space. And it seemed like that was like how the market should be, but it's obviously gotten to where it's at. Do you feel like we'll ever have a CBA that gets us back to like free agency kind of being what we're familiar with it being, instead of just this proxy free agency where you're just like getting him and or or it's an ask out later on. Like, it's a weird, the way things work is weird right now.
Yeah, it's a weird dynamic. It's the old Derrick Rose rule because he won MVP. Just to clarify, I pulled it up while you were talking about it. To qualify, so Nate, just to qualify for this, you have to be, there's 3 different criteria. If you're all NBA first, second, or third team, and at least 2 seasons before it. So Jaylen Brown was third team all last year. You win Defensive Player of the Year or you win MVP. So 2 of them are pretty tough, but to be all first, second, or third team, that's 15 different guys that get on that. So if you're a young guy, that's what happened with Derrick Rose, is he was MVP and then had to sign a little contract. To answer your question, John, I don't know. Pandora's box has been opened. I don't know if they will ever let it go back in. And for anybody that doesn't know, the Supermax, like the only team that can sign that is the team that drafted you. Like, so if they would go out and free agent Nate, he can't sign this contract. It's not even offered. It has to be the team that he's with. It's not drafted, but the team he's with. I don't see it, John. It's just too much money. Like, and it's a percentage, so it's going to keep going up. It's 35% of the salary cap, so it goes up. There is no stopping it. And I don't see it ever going away.
Yeah, it used to be you could only get a 10% raise on your extension. You had to have been. It was, you had to kind of like climb the steps on the ladder, and it was essentially just that. Like I was making $7 million in the last year of this contract, so I can get in a $7.7 million first year of my next contract, and that's what I can kind of negotiate for. But now it's not working the way I think they wanted it to, which they just wanted like small market teams to have a fair shot at like keeping the stars they drafted for the most part. And to create some parity that way, but like, I don't know, it's almost just the off season is much different now. Like, you're not seeing these big time stars even hit the market, which is part of what they wanted to accomplish, but you're also not seeing them necessarily stay loyal to the teams they were drafted by just because they're the ones who gave them this contract. They're still moving on or capitalizing on their no trade clause or things like that, and then still leaving teams, but not without securing that Supermax from the team they can, which is it's a goofy little game.
Man.
It's weird. And you've got and for that reason, you can't really say without knowing all that, like, oh, Jaylen Brown isn't worth that amount of money. It's not even about that. It's just like he just meets that threshold. Like, he's good enough to get the most you can give him.
Yeah.
It's a weird environment.
I think you bring up a good point there. It's not necessarily is he worth the money, is if, like, for the Celtics, it's not even about the money. It's like, if you let him go, what happens? Like, I think personally, I think the Celtics did the right thing, but I think they're kind of pigeonholed because what's the other option? Like, he's coming off his worst playoff series of his career, like stats. So 2 years ago against the Heat, when they went to the finals, when they beat them in the conference final, went to the finals, he averaged 21.4 points per game on 60.2 true shooting percentages. He did still turn it over 3.3 times a game, but he shot 40% from 3 that series. This year, 19 points per game, 5% lower, 46% true shooting percentage, which is down 14%, turned it over more times per game, and shot a whopping 16.3% from 3. So, like, there's a recency bias here because he was awful recently. And that's where this conversation is coming from. But what is the alternative? Just let him walk away and you get nothing back?
Right, exactly. Like, you'd
have a disgruntled player for the next year too because he didn't get the max.
I get that in some regard, but like, to me, I mean, when they're getting these Supermax contracts here, I mean, I feel like the Celtics have kind of topped out at this point. And I think it's fair to say, like, I don't know that they're going to be a consistent finals contender with both of them, Tatum and Brown.
It's a good question you bring up there. I think how I see this playing, if they can't make a run to the final, like if he struggles this next year, I think he suddenly becomes trade bait. The problem is that's a mega contract you're trying to move, and not only did he struggle in the playoffs, 4 straight seasons in a row, his percentages have gone down, specifically from 3. 2020-21, he shot 39.7% on 411 attempts, so roughly 40, which is pretty good. Last year, or 2 years ago, 35.8% on 464 attempts, so he went up and it went down, inefficient. And then this last year, he shot 33.5% on almost 500 attempts, 487. So he's shooting more at a worse clip. Couple in the jokes about his left hand not working and his turnovers and his playoff performance, and it's fair to wonder, like, I don't know. Like, I don't think you can let him go, but it makes you wonder. And then Lee brings up a good point about how Derek White fits all into this. With the trade of Marcus Smart, Derek White becomes very valuable. Very important.
He'll be defending the best guard on the opposing team for sure.
Yeah.
And yeah, as an on-ball creator, he becomes more important and valuable. Like you'll lean on he and Brogdon, and it's tough because you want to be able to run everything through Jaylen and Jason.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, you don't want to have to. When you're talking about Miles, you end up putting on those guys and just kind of dealing with their ups and downs. You want secondary creators, and he might legitimately be their third perimeter option now coming into this. And we saw how crucial he was down the stretch, obviously the tip in, but he also kept them in games with some of his jump shooting, particularly in that Heat series. And, I think he's going to be huge. But it's weird because, now with Jaylen coming back at that number, it's a difficult contract to move if that becomes the prudent thing to do. But it also makes it a little more difficult to build a contender around those two guys, just with the size of those contracts. And then you bring in a guy like Porzingis at that number, and now we have all these new stipulations with the new CBA and the luxury tax curtain, and you're gonna have to be willing to pay that, and you're also probably not going to have your full mid-level for the foreseeable future to you're going to be signing minimums and trying to roster that way. So which can work, but it's tough. It's tougher anyway.
I mean, it can work, but I think it has to work in a scenario like, what you saw in Golden State in the mid 2010s and, along those lines. I mean, I just don't. They're great players. I just don't see Brown and Tatum being on the same team worth that. I feel like that they need somebody. I don't know how I'm trying to describe it. I just feel like they need that person with that oomph, that like spark sort of thing.
Yep. I know John's trying to zoom in on this. I brought up their calories. This is 2 years. So the good, like, it doesn't kick in this year. It's 2 years out. But here's what it looks like in 2 years. Jaylen Brown makes $52 million. Tatum makes $34, is eligible for the Supermax extension the year after. KP makes $29. Brogdon's $22.5. Derek White's $19.5 million. Like, it's gonna be tricky. Like you said, like building around it. I'm trying to get this zoomed in for you guys here.
Oh, this is what Nate was trying to say.
Yeah, this is what Nate was saying here is this numbers. Like, look at those numbers, man. I don't. Your projected cap space next year is, I think it was 150, but then the second apron and stuff's different. But they're going to be hitting that second apron, and the second apron is when you lose the mid-level, like you talked about. It's gone. You can't have it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's think about that. So think about that. When Tatum gets his, then so the next year after that, it's Jaylen Brown 50-some million, Tatum 50-some million. I think Porzingis would have to re-sign. I think he'd be off the books, but if he's playing good, you're not going to let him go. So you're talking to him getting another. I don't think he can get 30 again, but 25. All of a sudden, it's 135 million, and it's tricky, man.
Yep, and it'll be close to half the cap on two guys, if not more than that. And yeah, it just gets more difficult from there. And the thing about that though is you're not really dealing with a situation where you're worried about a decline from either of them over the duration of either of these contracts. They're both theoretically entering their prime right now, which is nuts. And I think weirdly through all of this, Jaylen Brown's kind of gotten like underrated. I feel like almost like since the playoffs and the fallout of all of that, and the NBA Twitter discourse since is just crucifying him essentially. It's he can't dribble. Don't give him the Supermax. Yada yada yada. But at the end of the day, within the confines of how money moves around in the current CBA, like technically, yeah, he is worth it. The alternative is just not having him. So let's do that. And secondly, he was the best player on that 2022 finals team for significant stretches. I mean, for a lot of the playoff run, he outperformed Jason Tatum. Of course, Tatum comes with the 50 ball in this year, even with how inconsistent he was at times. And you just have a really, really cold stretch from with Brown's jump shot. I mean, if his jump shot was even falling at a regular season clip, not even necessarily last postseason clip, but just at the 35% or whatever he was knocking him down at in the regular season of this year, all of a sudden you're looking at another 4 to 6 points per game with the volume he was putting up. So I don't know, man. I think they'll be all right. And I think they'll be hanging around for the next several years. It'll just be more difficult to navigate how you fill out the rest of the roster. I think you could have just some organic internal improvement from those guys still, just because they're 26 and 25, I think.
I think 27 and 26. Jaylen Brown's 27. I don't know how.
27 and 26.
But like you said, they're theoretically entering their prime, and guys are starting to play longer. Like you're seeing these guys play well into their 30s at a high clip. So if he can get his jump shot a little bit back and his left hand starts working, this is probably a wholly different conversation.
And we've already seen him tighten up his handle from a few years ago. We've seen that improvement steadily. I think just on the biggest stage, it's not enough for him to really be a secondary on-ball creator or a primary on-ball creator. I think he was trying to be at times. So, I mean, if he is just and he's a pretty strong ISO guy when he's kind of into his bag, when his step back's falling, he's great at attacking the basket. But I think ideally you have him off the ball a little bit more often anyway. But that said, I think you can still expect a little bit of improvement in his handle and just kind of the way he reads the game as he matures a little bit more. So I think the jury's still out on a lot of these things that people are talking about with very finite opinions, where it's like Jaylen Brown is never going to be whatever. And I think that's unfair to say at this point, frankly.
I would agree.
You can talk about how the playoffs went in that regard, but it's impossible to say he's not going to get better over the duration of this contract.
Mm-hmm. And Lee brings up a good point. The Suns, he says the same fix. It's similar. It's not the same. The Suns have got 4 max guys. They're not super max guys, so the numbers are different. They're lower, but still you've got Durant, Beal, Booker, and DeAndre Ayton all on max contracts, and I think that adds up to like $160 million. That's why their whole bench is full of just cast-offs and an Eric Gordon who decided to take a veterans minimum, to make the team.
And if he's got gas in the tank, that's a steal of a signing for sure. But there's also a chance he just doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where you're getting with minimum guys. Like you might at the same time, you're probably not getting 2011, 2012 Miami Heat free agent signings. There's no novelty to this super team thing.
No, it's gone. That's gone.
Nobody's flocking to play with. Oh my God, Dwayne Wade and LeBron James. I'll play on that team for a couple of sandwiches.
It's pretty old hat at this point.
Yeah. And so nobody's really chasing that, because there's also like when the Celtics got together in 08, or it was the summer of 07. When those guys got together, everybody was like, "Oh, they're the favorites."
Yep.
That collection of talent's ridiculous. If a guy like Rondo and any of those like role players are even decent, they should be great. And then you see the decision in 2010, and it's LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, and Brosh, and you're like, well, this is the same thing, but these guys are all in their prime, and you're like, this is a sure thing. They're winning championships.
So
but every team after that, where it's like this big flashy collection of name value, it hasn't really been that. Like it was surefire with those guys, and it felt inevitable. But then you see KD and Harden and Kyrie in Brooklyn. You've seen Nash and Dwight and
not to interrupt you, John, but
that's
so
what it is.
The problem with that, well, not a problem with what you said, but a problem with like the big three sort of thing. And now that it hasn't, it's honestly it's not very common for it to work out. The problem with it is, as much as it probably doesn't make sense, the personalities in the big three play a huge part in that. Just because you look at, let's just go back to the Celtics. Garnett's Garnett, but Ray Allen's kind of that, I don't want to say like put your head down, workmanship sort of thing, but he'll put the work in, and Pierce was a pretty good leader there. And then you go to Miami with Dwayne was there. It was already there for 7-8 years, so he had a good foundation there. LeBron's all business, and Chris Bosh is probably the most underrated player in the NBA during that time frame, in my opinion. And they all meshed and worked well together. But then you go to, I'm just going to use Brooklyn as an example.
They're the perfect example. That's what I was going to use too.
Like that's a horrible meshing of personalities. To me, like Harden's got to be the only guy on a team for him to work effectively. And Durant's just kind of like, he doesn't like it, but Slim Reaper, sort of. What's the other damn term I'm trying to think of? Bounty hunter sort of thing. Like
at this point, yeah.
And then obviously we don't need to talk about Ben Simmons really that much, because we all know
Kyrie was on that team too.
He's
part of their big three, and his ego is.
Oh, and then I forgot about Kyrie.
Quite the something.
Yeah.
And you know what? Like, what's a little different about those teams too, and like why I think that was less likely to pan out, is the Suns do a little bit, sort of the way the Warriors did before KD got there. They had been to a finals, and so you feel like you have that set. That's why I feel like they could maybe work, but the Beal thing's a little bit too much, maybe too much dip on the chip. I don't know, but with like Brooklyn, there was never like an existing identity. When, like you mentioned, Nate, when LeBron got to Miami, Dwayne Wade had won them a championship already. It was Dwayne Wade's team, and Dwayne Wade said, no, 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 come here. I know it's my shit, but you guys can, I mean, you can be LeBron. You know, I'll do whatever I need to do. When Kevin Garnett got to Boston, he refused to be the last guy introduced in the starting lineup. They wanted to introduce him last. And he said, no, fuck that. This is Paul's team.
I didn't know that.
You call his name out last. He's been here. This is, we're here to get his team to the big one, which is super. Yeah, exactly. You need those kind of personalities that are just like, all right, we're here to win, not just, oh, my life might be a little easier if I played with like, my buddy from the Olympic team and we just got some buckets. Like you got to really come in serious, and you really got to be hungry. And maybe it's because it's easier to team up with other really talented players these days. Maybe there's less like urgency when you do, the way like LeBron and Wade felt, because they were like, we just teamed up. Like now we need to win a couple, even without LeBron saying all that stuff on stage about winning more than they did. Even if he hadn't said that, they showed up and they knew the kind of players they teamed up, and they knew they had to get down to business. And I think that might be kind of part of the difference, almost, where you just need the full buy-in, and that might be a little bit more difficult to come by in like the modern landscape of the NBA. Just, the way it works now, it's different and easier to move around.
If you want to think about it too, like technically you could consider the Spurs a big three sort of thing, but that's a little different because that's organic.
Yeah.
There. It also makes me wish that the Thunder would have won that title the one year, because they had a big three situation that was also homegrown.
That one hurts that we never got to see the run back on that. That one sucked.
I would have loved Thunder Heat. Spurs Heat was cool, but
Thunder Heat would have been so much fun.
I think you might have gotten another Thunder Heat.
That iconic picture of those three with their arms around each other when they're losing, and everybody's like, we're going to get to see this for a year, and we didn't ever get to see it again.
Yep, that was awful.
So sad. There's your first time Harden forced himself out. He was started a long time ago.
Yep, just pay the tax, guys. Keep good players.
It's tough. They've changed those rules to try to help a little bit. So we're going to pivot here a little bit. I've got wasn't sure who was going to be joining me tonight, so I put together my NBA top 5. So we're going to see what you guys, or my top 10 actually, see what you guys think post.
Let's go.
Post free agency, post draft. Get it pulled up here. I've still got the Nuggets as the team to beat. Even though they lost Bruce Brown and Jeff Green, I still got them as the team to beat in the NBA. I got the Bucks sitting number 2. I love that they brought all those guys back. Now, I'm banking on Chris Middleton getting healthy one of these years. If he doesn't, then they might as well, they can drop all the way. I have the Celtics 3 with Jaylen Brown. I do. 4 is a tentative because I see your tag there, Ant plus Dame, Johnny. It's a pipe dream. I believe Damian Lillard is going to end up in Miami, so I've got them 4. And then rounding out my top 5, I've got the Lakers. I'm on record, and I hate saying it, that I love what the Lakers did this offseason. Absolutely love what they did. So thoughts, comments, concerns, John, Nate, you guys got any arguments? Have I got teams in the wrong spot, too high, too low?
Here's a thought process, and maybe this is crazy, but with everything going on in LeBron's life, I'm not saying that he's not going to play, and he is a consummate professional, but how much is that going to weigh on him throughout the year?
That's some scary stuff for anybody who didn't know. Bronny James had a cardiac incident. He is okay. He's fine. Thank God AEDs exist. Nate, you wouldn't know this. When I was at Wichita State, we had a situation like that. On my second year there, we had a player go down, and they had to use an AED to bring him back. it's scary stuff, man. And it's a good question. Like, he's a father. That's all that, like, his kids are everything to him. Like, whew, that's.
And it's not like
Man.
there's anything else for him to really accomplish at this point in his career. And, I'm not advocating for him to do anything, but like, I feel like if he just decided to make the decision to not like actually play or whatever,
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like there are going to be people that are going to give him absolute crap. But at the same time, like, well, even if you just look at it strictly sports, I mean, he's done everything that he can do. But it does not matter compared to family and other aspects of your life.
Nope. You're absolutely right. And then if he does play, does it affect him? There's a whole can of worms that gets opened with that. You're absolutely right. Our boy Kev says, I need to move the Kings up. Sorry, Nate, I'm blocking you for a second. The bottom 5 is 6 through 10 is where I got a little goofy. Everybody on here knows I'm a Golden State believer, so I think they figure it out. I worry the Suns don't have any depth. The Kings, I could see the argument for the Kings getting moved up. The Grizzlies are without Ja for 25 games, so can they survive it? And then number 10, I'm probably wrong because who knows where James Harden's going to play, but I tentatively have him there if he plays there.
I think you should have probably, personally, I wouldn't have had the Grizzlies in my top 10.
I can hear the argument. I agree. Like,
just with, I'm not sure who I would theoretically would throw up there. I'd have to really think about it. Certainly wouldn't be the Pacers or the Bulls.
Clippers were a good argument.
I think I like the Cavs.
Cavs are one.
Clippers, and maybe even the Knicks more than a Hardenless Sixers, and maybe more than a Grizzlies, knowing about the Ja Morant.
Yeah, I could hear all those.
But those are the only ones I really think would be in that conversation. Like, if Harden's back, Sixers should be firmly there. Or if they do anything to sort of recover what they lose with Harden, whether that's some type of goofy sign and trade or some other way they bring in another piece or I'm big on Tyrese Maxey too. Like, that team should still be fine.
They have the reigning MVP regardless, so they should still be fine. But without Harden, it's a different team. And all those teams, I agree. I could move any of them up there. Lee's got a comment. He says, I can't put 3 East teams in the top 5. I understand it. Probably wrong. I don't believe the Suns until I see it, and I got to see what the Warriors are going to do with old CP3, how that's going to work.
So I've got a real scorching hot take here, just because I want to shake some things up here. But at least I'm just going to say I would be really risky and put the Spurs in the top 10.
Oh, a believer. Have a believer.
And I will also say, just another random hot take, the Spurs will be in the Western Conference Finals this year.
Oh,
that would be so sick.
I would be on board if it played out like that. I'd be so on board. I love Wemby. I think he's going to be awesome.
Here's Kev. Oh, no chance, Kev. You're on record.
Yeah, that order is set. It's been posted, man. It's live.
Yeah, and I like a lot of those young guys, dude. The Spurs have.
They have some young dudes, man.
Malachi Branham, Keldon Johnson would be like. I would love his kind of archetype of player on a winning team. Like, if Keldon Johnson as your 4th or 5th starter would be awesome. So if some other guys take some steps. Trey Jones, I think, re-signed with the Spurs, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, he did.
Which he's
great for them.
It's very good for them, yeah.
Sochan will be a lot better in year 2.
Sochan will be better.
And I'm also saying this because I'm going to have 3 Spurs players on my fantasy team.
Yeah. Did you got Wemby?
I will have the first pick. So yes, I will be drafting Wemby.
Nice.
And I also have Branham and Sochan. both.
So this leads me into a good one. I had a good friend of mine text me so we're going to call this a reader question for the day, and I will leave it up to you guys. But he sent me a tweet. Every year there's an NBA team that completely overperforms consensus expectations. In 2021, it was the Knicks. 2 years ago, it was the Bulls. This last year, it was the Kings. Who's your pick to overperform in 23-24? It sounds like Nate wants to just go ahead and say the Spurs. I'll give him another if he wants to pick anybody else. But
no, Spurs. Actually, here, I'll give you another one just so Kevin can stop being mad about me slandering the Pacers here. I'm going to say the Pacers.
Yeah. I would have said Pacers if you didn't, but I would also say the Raptors. And not necessarily in the same sense as like, oh, this team came out of nowhere. These young guys finally gelled. This one little free agency addition. But I think they've been sort of written off. There's all the like, hey, everybody's 6'7" memes, and stuff like that. But I think you might see a more engaged Scotty Barnes, more like maybe a little bit more like his rookie year, if that's the case. If they don't move Siakam and he's back, I think he'll come back with a lot to prove, especially with all the rumors that have been swirling. And yeah, you lose Van Vliet, but I think that'll just open the door to get a lot of those other guys some minutes. Pirtle's super serviceable. I think they could just be like, maybe even miss the play-in and come in and get like a 6 seed and sneak all the way in and just be, a legitimate tough out in the first round where a lot of people I feel like think the tank is on.
Yeah, I think they're just going to be awful.
But I could see them being really kind of like your Titans. Like I could see it being like that where like,
that's
a nucleus. It's a good, like, I don't know. Yeah, I think they could be better than a lot of people think they will be. But it's not quite the same archetype of like the Kings coming out of nowhere or the Bulls finally not being shitty. Like, but yeah, I was thinking about the Raptors when I went through that because I saw this tweet earlier too. I thought it was really interesting.
Yep. I think the Pacers are a popular pick, and I hate that I'm saying this. This is not a Pacer Stands account because Kev runs the show. It's not. They might be too trendy, though, but, I mean, I love Obi Toppin being on that team. I love Halliburton throwing it to him. I think he's going to get to go wild. I'm pretty excited for them. I think they're one of the ones that very well could be.
I mean, they should, in my opinion, and to me, like, it wouldn't be a surprise, but I know people would probably still be surprised. They should be a playoff team, in my opinion. I'm not saying like a top 5 seed or anything, but they should be comfortably a playoff team.
The Pacers?
Yes.
Yeah, I agree.
Mm-hmm. One that's more like those Kings and Knicks and Bulls a little bit is like maybe this is the year the Magic kind of put it together.
That's a good one. That's a
they've
really
just got so much young talent. If they just kind of figure out the hierarchy, they could be dangerous pretty quick. They can like 1 through 15 on their roster. They can switch everything. They've got bigs who can handle the ball. A guy like Franz Wagner could really hit. Banchero looked great. If they figure out which guard they want to run next to those couple of guys, and
Fultz started to come on pretty strong. I was a big Fultz believer. Every month he had better stats, so maybe he finally gets completely healthy, and puts it together. That's a good one. That's a really good one.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe like it's also just like this smattering of young talent where you could also see it just like never working out and all of these players working out on other teams, But but I don't know. It could be something they just that the stars align a little bit. I hope so. I like a lot of those players.
Yeah, a lot of those players are cool. Houston's another interesting one. That's you're saying teams like that, just loaded with talent, new coach, sign Fred, sign Dylan Brooks to come
experience.
If you can get, they just got so many talented guys that are inefficient scorers. They don't win games. Like maybe they can finally put it together. They're an interesting one.
Yeah, I like that one. It'd be funny if the Blazers were really good after trading Dame, like the Seahawks were this year.
Yep. Oh, that would be wild.
Like,
That'd be
Scoot
funny.
just comes in and he's amazing, and whatever they get back for him ends up really helping their roster out. That'd be really fun to see, honestly. But yeah, those are the only teams I really think could make a significant jump.
I think so too. So we've got not like kind of the pretty doldrums of NBA season, NBA off season. However, sneakily, the Pelicans snuck in a jersey reveal for us. I completely missed this. John, have you seen these?
The Pels, I haven't.
Okay, so I completely missed it. I found this on NBA.com today. I had no idea. I didn't see it on Twitter. I completely missed it. It was from a couple days ago. So these are their. Let me get the exact details. So these are their the statement edition uniforms. I guess this is the city jerseys, is what it sounds like. I think they're just called the statement edition. So Nate says he's got some hot takes on this. I'm not sure how I feel. Let's get these pulled up here. The Crescent City jerseys, so they're statement editions. First off, anybody know why it's called the Crescent City? I meant to look this up. I actually don't know.
I forget offhand. And I should know this. It is called the Crescent City because the original town, and I just literally looked this up. So this isn't off the top of my head. The view Carré, I can't speak French, but also called the French Quarter, was built at a sharp bend in the Mississippi River.
Okay, I had no idea.
Makes sense, I guess. But I think these are pretty solid, and I think it's kind of showing a change in the style of jerseys, like going a little more minimalistic, because I'm a big fan of most of their I guess they would technically be the city edition ones too, but the Mardi Gras looking ones.
Yes, yep.
With the purple and the green and stuff, and even the ones that were black base that had the stripes. I think those are great for the city, and like, to me, these are kind of a downgrade to that, but they're still pretty solid, and at least there's some history behind it, which is the whole thing what these are. But I gotta say though, before you kind of heard this spiel on Discord here, I'm gonna say it once again here. So I personally believe that the Jazz should not be the Jazz still, and it should have stayed in New Orleans. While the Pelicans is still relevant, what sort of motherfucking Jazz is in goddamn Salt Lake City in the middle of the mountains, for one? And two,
yeah, I think they're against Jazz.
I've actually never put that together. I'm gonna go out and I've actually never put that together. Now it makes all the sense in the world.
It just really bothers me.
The boss has spoken. He says there's Jazz in Utah.
Well, hey, you know what though? If you've seen the movie SLC Punk, there's plenty of punks in Salt Lake City. So maybe they could have done something with that. But and it's the same thing with any team. Like, I don't think the Arizona Cardinals, they should not be the Cardinals. I don't think the Lakers should be the Lakers.
Don't you say it. Don't you say it.
I don't think the Titans should be wearing.
Don't you say it.
Should not be wearing goddamn Oilers uniforms ever. So all right, pick a different name or something. I don't know.
So my thing on these ones is, why are they just these with different words?
They are. I was waiting. I didn't know if Nate knew. They're literally the red ones. They just
like, I hate how
it just makes those worse. Then I didn't even think about that. It just makes it worse.
Like they're slightly better, but like I just hate that they're not more different. You know what I mean? Like I feel like if you come out with something like
Their statement, their statement is shitty.
The Rip City jerseys for Portland were badass. Yeah, the statement ones. Like you don't have to get as crazy as like Dallas does with the. I don't want to see any of those gradient Jazz jerseys again in my life.
Yeah.
But like, can we like? Why is it the same exact shade of red? Like the same font? Like
It is. It's the same piping. It's a little different because the piping goes down through the logo.
Yep, there's the blue trim on the sleeves, which is all right, nice.
It's a little different, but it's not much, man. It is kind of wild.
Yeah, like I don't know.
It's not a font with a bubble in it in the number.
Yeah, it's not a terrible jersey in general, but like, yeah, I don't know. It's just like it's like the first jersey they had. It was these and the or I guess they had the navies, but they were. I mean, Anthony Davis was wearing these. Eric Gordon was wearing these. Tyreek Evans was wearing these. Who else did they have? Austin Rivers, obviously. But I don't know. I feel like you drum up some hype around a jersey like that. Like I don't know. I'd like to see something a little different.
Yeah, I agree. It's just.
I mean, at least the Nets, and I don't know if I can pull it up here from where I'm at before I bounce here. But at least the Nets for this year are kind of neat looking, even if they're slightly ridiculous here. I mean,
let me see if I can find it for you.
I can. Let me see.
Can you share your screen?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's these bad boys. Is it shared? Yeah.
I can see it. Oh, add to stream. Let's just do. There we go. I can see it. Oops, I got it. There we go. Oh, I didn't even see those yet. Those are fun.
That was released back in April, actually.
Why weren't these marketed better? These
are
really cool.
I have this first time I've seen them, so I completely missed it too.
It's so cool when your color scheme's just black and white. So if you do something goofy, you can just be like, we can put whatever color, dude. We don't really have colors.
You can accent it with anything. Accent it with anything, man. Those are pretty cool. So I know we're not going very long tonight. It's doldrums of summer. I know you guys got to get out of here. I've got an early day tomorrow too. So where can we find you guys, John, Nate? Where can we find you guys around the interwebs?
I'm like not really on Twitter anymore.
I went to tag you today and I couldn't find you.
Well, I have so for my fantasy baseball league, we have a Discord, but nobody ever uses the Discord to talk or just, do whatever. So I was just like, I'm missing a bunch. So I have a kind of fake Twitter profile that I exclusively just have to talk in this group message.
Yeah.
And I might follow a few things here and there, but I'm never going to tweet off of it. So I'm going to pass that out, but you can find some lovely photos at Ben Ham and Turkey. So there you go.
Johnny, where can we find you at, my friend?
I am right here on Tuesday nights at 9/8 Central, talking NFL football on Necessary Roughness with Nick, Zach, Michael, you guys, Kev, some combination of the several of you, and that's every week. And then you can also catch me on Minnesota Sports Talk right here on YouTube. We actually just posted our interview with Alexander Madison's dad, Darrell, that we conducted tonight. So that's live. I'll share that on my Twitter at John B. Boyd 12. And see where else I can post that. But also I'll be there weekly in some capacity or another, Wednesday or Thursday nights, just talking Vikes. And then I think James, Kev, and I will be back at it, nerding out about some some other things. Star Wars in particular coming up
might be next week. We're on the docket debating the start date of our new Star Wars. I guess it'd be the second episode of our Star Wars show that we still haven't named. There is a ridiculous name on docket.
Name it here soon. That's right.
Oh, yep.
But
I guess you can also find me on Threads if you ever find yourself going there. So
Oh, there he is, trendsetter. Please, you can catch us here every Thursday night, 9 p.m. for the Bounce. Thank you guys for joining me tonight. I don't know if I actually think we might be going next Wednesday. It's going to be goofy. I'm gone next week. Lee, if you ever heard the statement, I can't even think what the statement is, but got to look good, dress good, better jerseys, better shooters. That's how it works. So yes, the jerseys absolutely help. Please join our Discord if you guys get a chance. This is usually Kev clicking all these, so I don't know how this is going to work. I don't know how to post that into the chat, so that's actually Kev's fault. I left slam ball off this week. That's Kev's favorite sport. We'll talk that next week. And then check out all our live shows. Yeah, slam ball is his sport. I was just going to scroll through the Twitter. We'll save that for him next week. Yeah. Check out all our live shows. Like John said, NFL season's right around the corner. Training camp just started for everybody. And we got Necessary Roughness live every Tuesday. We've got ADP and Rumbles or Red returning soon. You can check out Late Night Bites and Biting Early. Like we said, Dweeb, our Star Wars show, we will name it. It's going to start next week. Hopefully next week. It's coming soon. Ahsoka's coming up. So thank you guys for joining us. Until next time.
Take it easy.